All right, now we come to young adulthood. Just a quick note, if you're enjoying this course, please do leave me a 5-star review. Leave me your comments. I love to hear the positive feedback and any way I can improve the course. I will be making updates in the future, and it also helps other students see how this course is and how I am as an instructor. So let's get into the next section. Now, with this, we're going to have a part-by-part question about your life, but another way you can do this is to just go through it as in this happened, and then after that happened, this happened, and after that happened, this happened. So in a sense, you can find your own rhythm and go through it in your own pace. And then if that's the case and you're finding that that's easy to do, then go with it and let it flow. But if you need some prompts and you need to work out, now what exactly do I need to go into, what is missing, you can refer back to these questions and these prompts. So let's get into young adulthood. What was your experience of moving out of home for the first time? How old were you? Where did you move into and with who? What were your feelings around the experience? Did you go to university or college? And if yes, what were your experiences? What have been your experiences of alcohol? What have been your experiences of drugs? Tell us about your early 20s and mid 20s, where you were living, what you were doing, and what happened to you. Include people who were significant to you, work, eating habits, travel, world events that affected you, and anything else you feel to share. Also include how you felt about life. What did you think life was all about? What were your feelings towards life? Now, there's a lot in that. There's some funny ones in that. I wanted to point out eating habits. You might not remember. What exactly did you eat when you were in your early 20s? What sort of meals did you have? What did you have for breakfast typically? What did you have for lunch typically? What were your snacks like? What was it exactly? Where did you get this food and how did you prepare it? Where did you buy it? This sort of thing. It can reveal a lot about how you are, and you might have some thinking about that. Specifics are good when you're writing autobiography writing. Now, we have some more general questions. What has been your experience of sickness and health? Include diet and exercise habits and any experiences of sickness or pain you may have experienced. What has been your experience of travel? What has been your experience of addiction? Tell us about anything else that was significant to you from your young adulthood. Now, that covers young adulthood. Next up, we have middle adulthood. Now, I did want to, at this stage, just mention something about chapters. Really, you can find your own place as to where you write a chapter or end a chapter. Typically, you have childhood and up to the end of school as one chapter, and then you have university as one chapter, and then you have something as the next chapter after that. And then from there, it's demarked by significant life events. Now, of course, not everyone's life runs like that. Not everyone has neat chapters that fall into line in a chronological, systematic way. So you can think about maybe your chapter is to where you were living in a certain place, where you were living in a certain house or living in a certain city. You might find it was a new chapter after a significant life event happens and you say, okay, this was the end of a chapter and this was a new chapter. So really it's up to you, and you want to keep them at about the same amount of words. Usually the earlier chapters are shorter and the later chapters are longer because more stuff happens to you later in life. But I just wanted to make a note about where you put the chapters is really up to you. So we come to middle adulthood. So this is mid-20s, late 20s to early 30s. Tell us about your experience of your late 20s to early 30s. Tell us about your relationships, boyfriends, girlfriends. Include how and why they were significant to you, how they made you feel, what you learned from them, what you learned about yourself, and what you admired in these people that you had a relationship with and what you found difficult in them. What sort of things would you do together and what sort of conversations would you have? If you have been married or divorced, tell us about your experiences. Tell us about work, money, travel, and where you were living in your late 20s to early 30s. How did you feel life had turned out for you in your early 30s? What was your outlook on life? What did you desire? What were your disappointments? What did you think about your future? Moving on, we have what was your experience of family in your early 30s? Did you have a family of your own? And if yes, what were your experiences? So, this one has a bit of a divide as to whether you're male or female or otherwise. So, if you are a mother, include the experiences of becoming pregnant and giving birth to each of your children. Include as much detail as you can. Include if your pregnancies were expected and wanted. What was your state of mind around the pregnancy? Your general feelings and what your relationship with the father was like. Include what you hoped for your children, what you provided for them, how it was to care for them as an infant. What was it like to watch them grow? Include as much detail as possible. Include how and why you gave the name you did to your children. So motherhood is a big one, right? There's a lot in motherhood. You could probably write a whole book about it, probably. But really, if you can go into as much detail as to how you became pregnant, a lot of women become pregnant by accident. Still to this day, this happens, yes? They don't expect it. And their reaction can be, well, a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety around it, or there might be a lot of joy, there might be a lot of excitement. They might think, yes, I wanted to be pregnant. What was your relationship to the father? Was the father someone you felt was dependable? Was that someone you chose? Did you choose this person to be the father of your children? And what was the pregnancy like? What was it like to have that person inside you, to allow this person to grow and come out of you as well? What was the delivery like? You can go into that detail. What was the first few days, weeks, and months of being with this infant child? What was breastfeeding like? Yes. What was the sleeping pattern of the child like? Yes. What was it like to care for this child, this infant baby, this helpless, dependable baby that I'm sure you love very much? So there's a lot in motherhood. It's a very big chapter. If you're a mother, you're probably going to want to do a whole chapter just on that, particularly if it is your first child. And then also, if you are a father, include your experiences of fatherhood. Moving on, we have, what was your experience of family in your early 30s and mid-30s? What was your relationship like with your mother and father, brothers and sisters? What sort of conversations did you have with them? And how much understanding was there between you? So this question is specifically about the family of origin, the family that you had when you were growing up. And you can also have this, here's where the story sort of divides into the family that you've come from and the family that you have. And you want to write both, yeah? The answer is always, you're giving as much information about both. Moving on, we have some more general questions about middle adulthood. What has been your experience of self-destructive behavior? How have you self-sabotaged? And the related question is, what has been your experience of self-creation behavior? How have you created your own life? So this is middle adulthood. How have you been self-destructive? How have you been self-creative?